When you look at the state of the Colts, where would you assess things at this point right now?
You could keep it pan because I got a couple questions for you. You know, in a situation to which you draft a quarterback at a certain point, obviously you're in the same situation with Drake. It's live. It's going on live now, so you didn't have last season like I did. But typically, when you draft a quarterback, in our experience, the best way they learn is what way?
I think there's actually two ways. But one is actually getting game experience, going out there and playing, making mistakes and trying to learn from your mistakes. Or,
Correct.
and this is something that has happened with multiple players, is you basically sit the first season. You allow to kind of see the game from the sideline. Like you could look at like Aaron Rodgers watching Brett Favre from the sideline, or even Tom Brady looking at Drew Bledsoe from the sideline for that first year. And being able to kind of, take the game in from just a total perspective from the sideline, going through the game on film, and really trying to manage things well during practice. Because, if you're not getting game time throughout the season, you at least have to make the most of your practice sessions, your film sessions, and just your commitment to the team by working out, being a focal point of what I would say is like the chemistry of the team, even though that they're not out there playing on the field. But when it comes to Anthony Richardson's perspective, the best way that you're probably going to learn is going out there and trying to make the best of the situation as you can. You're going to make mistakes early on in your NFL career. Every quarterback does that, but you have to get the game experience because at least that's something you could build off of the longer that you're in the league.
Thank you. So, again, this is going to be a very interactive subject for a couple minutes until I go crazy. So, basically, what you're saying is when you spend a high draft pick, you typically want to get a return on investment, aka you got to see him improve, you got to see the development there, but you're preparing in that season, in that follow-up, you're not going to win right off the bat. It is very rare when a first-round quarterback absolutely takes off and goes to the playoffs. You got to be a crazy talent like a Jaden Daniels. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Something insane that doesn't happen very often. But for the most part, it is going to be a developmental year or two. Correct?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Now, when we were talking about the draft 2 years ago, and we were talking about what Anthony Richardson brought to the table, when we went over his complete, stats, draft stock, everything. When we went over his complete synopsis of a player profile, we both agreed he was a project quarterback for whoever drafts him. Correct or incorrect?
100%. You mentioned that even when he was with Florida, like when he gets to the NFL, it wasn't just you talking about it. I mean, there were plenty of scouts that were talking about whoever drafts him. It's going to be a long haul as far as building him up, trying to build his progression to be a functional NFL quarterback, despite the athleticism that he brought to the table.
Thank you. Again, I'm merely asking these questions because I know for the most part we are usually on the same page, but there are some segments to where you completely disagree, and that's what makes this podcast fantastic. But in this case, I'm glad we're on the same page. So as it stands right now, Anthony Richardson is 5-5 in his career because last season he got hurt his shoulder, his throwing arm at that, and he was shut down for the season after week 5 or 6. So his rookie campaign was cut short. We saw flashes of what he could bring to the table in Shane Steichen's offense with, I think, maybe 1 or 2 games with Jonathan Taylor involved, not even starting. So the potential was there. But again, it was not to its fullest capacity. Right?
No, I agree.
Would you say that last season was a wash for Colts fans? Would you say that we had no chance?
You guys were competitive. Guys had a chance to make the playoffs.
Who was the quarterback last year?
I believe it was Gardner Minshew.
That's interesting because we have the same team, for the most part offensively, a healthy Jonathan Taylor. Another year with Shane Steichen, which means everybody should be familiar with the offense. Anthony Richardson is healthy. And we're not very good. Yes, offensively we have struggled, but the defense has had games where they just quite frankly cannot stop the run. We've barely been able to get to the quarterback at a consistent clip. We're not able to tackle in the open field. There's a number of things. However, outside of this game coming down to a 10-point game, I believe we are one of the only teams, if not the only team in the NFL, in history, guys, that's over 100 years of football, to where each of our first 9 games were decided by 1 score. So that means we're not just competitive. We're in every single game. We're within a field goal or a touchdown. And that's with Anthony Richardson's completion percentage issues. That's with us being one of the dead last rush defenses in the league. That's with the injuries to the offensive and defensive lines. That is with the incompetence of a head coach in play calling. That is with Joe Flacco playing in the last few games. Again, outside of this Buffalo Bills game.
Yeah, I was about to say up until this game.
So let it be known, this team, as dysfunctional as it is, as lackluster of talent in terms of names that we may not have, we're finding ways to stay in games. So then our head coach decides to go and bench Anthony Richardson. Now, the controversy comes behind the whole head tap thing, which is completely inappropriate. I don't think that that was justified. You and I agree completely. There's no place in the league for someone quitting. Damian Woody put it perfectly right after the game on Monday. We have to block for you for 4 quarters. You got to sit there and throw the ball. He didn't say that the quarterback position wasn't hard. He didn't say that it wasn't physically grueling. But it is one of the easier jobs if you have a clean pocket. If you're not touched, you just got to throw the ball. You might make a bad read and throw an interception, but in terms of physical aggression, physical stature, sit back there and throw the ball. You're not running into linemen. You're not having to shove your head into another defensive tackle. You don't have to put your shoulder down for extra yards unless you're scrambling, which, again, you don't have to because you can slide or run out of bounds. I digress. Even with all the issues that we had, we were competitive. We were 4-4 when we benched Richardson. Richardson, I thought, was going to get a nice little slap on the wrist. You got to learn a lesson, hit the bench for a game or two, and we're going to throw you back in there. And if the game is close and Joe can't get it done, we're going to put you back in. No. That's not what happens. You want to know what happens? We have a drunk and a drug addict for an owner. We have a GM that is not only incompetent in the offseason, but blind in saying that he likes what we have in-house. Yes, we have talent. Yes, we're able to develop very well. As you can see, Darius Shaquille Leonard, before all the injuries, was a second-round pick that no one thought would be anything. He was absolutely sensational prior to the back surgeries. Zaire Franklin, 7th-round pick out of Syracuse, one of the best tackling linebackers in football. Julian Blackmon, coming off of an ACO, one of the better free safeties in the league. Kenny Moore out of Valdosta State, and obviously Grover Stewart, and more and more and more. So we can definitely draft. We can draft the shit out of players. That's not the problem. But when you have capital and you choose not to bring in talent, when you want to retain your head coach in Frank Reich for a number of years, despite his play calling being questionable at best, because obviously it's in the past, I'm going to let it be, but I'm just saying everyone knows how much I hated Frank. You go and you hire an brilliant offensive-minded quarterback, or offensive coordinator in Shane Steichen, who just took Philadelphia to the Super Bowl with Jalen Hurts, and you draft a project. I need to emphasize this further. Project. Project means something that needs to be worked on, something that needs to be thought through, something that needs to be patient with. Quarterback. A project quarterback. You bench him after 10 games. Now, on what earth do you draft a project quarterback and you put in a 38 to 39-year-old veteran QB for the remainder of the season to say that we are in win now mode? I'm trying to remain calm because I had enough of an outburst yesterday. Mind you, I was working, ladies and gentlemen, yesterday. I work at a brewery. So I had to kind of remain calm for the customers in the building. I did my very best. There were a couple of outbursts that slipped out. I had to walk to the back. But a lot of my emotions were in the break room and after work. So I got a little bit of it out. But for the sake of today's podcast, I need you guys to understand. I'm pissed. I'm so agitated with the dysfunction of this franchise. Kyle knows a few years ago, I was ready to hang it up. I was ready to give up on the entire team, my fandom and everything, because we had blown a 36-3 lead against the Minnesota Vikings. It was the biggest comeback, worst blown lead in NFL history. We go and draft a quarterback that I didn't want, but I had hope for because I knew the talent was there. You know that the accuracy was a problem. You know that the physical attributes were there. We had never had a mobile quarterback in franchise history, at least not one that was serious. I knew for the next 3 to 4 years it wasn't going to be anything of Super Bowl stature, but I was going to hope in the second, maybe even, in the third, maybe even second year, we would compete for a playoff spot because, hell, Gardner Minshew did it last year. So at 4-4, head tap aside, you go and demolish your rookie quarterback's confidence and say, we're going with Joe for the rest. Are you stupid? You have to be the most ignorant, overbearing, asshole head coach to go and bench your project that you, Shane Steichen, said in training camp, we know we have to build him up. We know this is going to take time. And you go and throw Anthony under the bus. Again, I have to clarify, I am not defending him taking himself out of the game. So for those of you that are going to carry that comment on, go somewhere else, because that's not what this is about. Anthony Richardson has played 10 games in the NFL, and he is getting punished for the incompetencies of a franchise that can't get its head out of his ass because we haven't recovered since Peyton Manning was released from neck surgery. We draft Andrew Luck and basically kill him because of a stupid GM that couldn't protect him and a head coach that couldn't focus, let alone structure a team to follow him. And then you go and you bring in Frank Reich, who had a good 2-3 year stretch at most, didn't know how to run the ball, and got him killed. Andrew retires, and then we go through this quarterback carousel for the next 8 seasons, and you're going to sit here and tell me the quarterback that we draft with the number 4 overall pick in the NFL draft, not 14, not 44, not 144, not 444, the 4th, the number before 5, with the scouting prospect of everything behind him, the draft stock, the reviews, everything. You knew Anthony Richardson was not going to be a quarterback that was going to immediately bring you a championship, let alone a playoff appearance. And in his first full year healthy after an injury, you throw him out there for 8 games and say, we've seen enough. What does that say about this franchise? What does that say about the culture in Indianapolis? Oh, well, you couldn't get it done, so you're gone. But when we were sitting there going through Nick Foles and Ellinger and Matt Ryan being in win now mode, that was justifiable? You look like a bunch of idiots back then, and that was just a few years ago. But I got it. You know, Matt Ryan was just a few years off of an MVP season. Matt Ryan had one of the worst offensive lines in Atlanta. Matt Ryan could not stay healthy in that final year. We had one of the best offensive lines the season before that. He was definitely going to come in and help. He was atrocious. Nick Foles hanging on the drapes of a Super Bowl from 2017. We're going to get playoff Super Bowl, Nick. He looked worse than Matt Ryan. Anthony Richardson's done nothing wrong. He's doing exactly what the scouting report said. Struggling, learning, developing. And you threw him off to the side to prove a point. I would have understood the punishment for the tap out, a game, maybe 2 at most, to teach him a lesson to say your time in this league is not guaranteed. You got to earn it. You got to earn your teammates' trust and respect back. Maybe there's a bigger issue behind this in the locker room. Maybe AR's an asshole. Maybe he doesn't want to work. Maybe he's too cocky. Maybe he's arrogant. I don't know. But what I do know is that there are season ticket holders that are revoking their season tickets because of how badly this organization is run. I don't care that he can throw 80 yards on a flick of the wrist. I don't care if Anthony Richardson can run a 4.5 40. I don't care if he has a 44-inch vertical. I want to win football games. I want to enjoy Sundays. I am tired of literally dreading to turn on either Sunday Ticket or just my TV to watch my favorite football team of basically my entire existence on earth, because I've been a Colts fan since 1998, which was, for those of you that are unaware, Peyton Manning's rookie season. And I've watched football with my dad for years. Did we win every year? Absolutely not. Was I spoiled growing up? Damn right. Well, I wasn't as spoiled as Kyle having 6 Super Bowls, but I knew what it was like to win and at least compete and try. We went through the ups and the downs with the carousel of the quarterbacks and Andrew Luck being injured and all these things. Trust me, I get it. I'm not sitting here saying we got to win every year, but this is ridiculous. Joe Flacco has been horrendous. Decision-making, inability to move in the pocket, poise in the pocket. Sure, can he be more accurate here and again? Yeah, that's great. What is accuracy going to do for us if we're losing games? We're 4-6, and as Kyle said, we are still very much alive in the AFC South, which is embarrassing to say because Houston is such a good football team. But we took them to the brink in both divisional games we played them in. We lost by a total of 5 points in 2 games. Anthony Richardson needs time. You're not giving him time. It was just announced today that Joe Flacco is still QB1. The further this goes, the more he don't want to play for you. The further this goes, the worse it's going to be for him to come back. The further this goes, the more you alienate the fans of this franchise. You're telling me you were so focused on security risks that you were taking people's free AR signs in the stadium? You're so focused on the media backlash and the PR that's coming for you guys making a terrible decision that you are literally letting a 22-year-old quarterback sit on a bench because you don't have the patience to develop him. If that's the case, why in God's name did you draft him? I would have rather you draft a kicker than get everybody's hopes up to bench him in 10. There was never a chance or a scenario on this earth that any real Colts fan saw the Colts making the Super Bowl this season. But you think that Joe Flacco puts you in a position to do so. Wake up. You're all deserved to be fired. You're all morons. And I hope somebody runs you each out of town because this is just absolutely embarrassing. I don't want to watch this team anymore. And what happens when Shane gets on the podium today? Well, it's a trust the process thing. Well, what's the process? We're working on it. Don't worry about it. Or whatever the hell he said today. That's what you tell the media? What are we, in Philadelphia? The fuck is that? Trust the process? Suddenly you're Joel Embiid? Last I checked, you're an Indianapolis Colt. You're no longer a Philadelphia Eagle. Focus on what the hell you have in front of you. I'm tired of this top 15, top 16 draft pick. I want to compete. I want to do something. Anthony Richardson can't get you more wins than this? Anthony Richardson can't be more competitive than this? I don't get it. He makes bad plays. He's basically a rookie. Anthony Richardson's inaccurate. Josh Allen couldn't hit the front side of a board his rookie year, and he's an all-pro. It took years to develop him. People were quick to throw him out because he came from Wyoming or whatever the hell. But now, he's an incredible all-pro MVP candidate, and the Buffalo Bills are 8-2. But it took a while. Patience is a fucking virtue, my man. You can't just throw Anthony Richardson out there and expect him to do something when you don't know what you're doing as a coach. All I'm saying is, if you want to lose, just say it. I'd rather you just tell the fans, I don't know what I'm doing. It's the blind leading the blind. It starts at the top. If Jim Irsay is telling Shane to do it, then I take back everything I said about Shane. If it's Chris Ballard trying to save his job, then you can kiss my ass and get out of my franchise because there's no room for GMs looking to save their ass when there's a fan base that is paying hundreds upon hundreds of dollars to watch this team play, to put out shit like that. And the only reason this game was within 10 points is because Joe Flacco scored with Alec Pierce with 2 seconds to go. So don't get it twisted. This was way worse than what the score leads it up to be. And the best part about this game, Josh Allen played like shit. So I can't even blame the defense. Despite Joe Flacco having 4 turnovers, it was damn near a 7-point game most of this entire game. So shout out to the defense for holding it down. But Lord knows, if Anthony Richardson does not get another start this season, there will be hell to pay because I promise you, Colts fans are not going to be selling out Lucas Oil Stadium. Colts fans are going to riot. I'm going to lose my mind. And Anthony Richardson is going to be a broken shell of what he should have been. And the ultimate karma is going to be when he leaves or you cut him and a patient coach coaches him up to be the potential Pro Bowl quarterback he can be. And that's what's going to bite the Colts in the ass. And that's all I got to say. Because Lord knows this can go on forever.